I'm converting my cargo van into a home on wheels. Guess what today's installation is? Starlink gets installed today. I went back and forth for a while as to how I was going to mount this. I knew I didn't want it in the van just because I didn't want my body that close to the satellite dish. So eventually I decided on this magnetic mount that is going to attach to the roof with these 4 really strong magnets that are also the feet of the mount. It also comes with 2 side rails that are adjustable, so I can tilt the mount up and down depending on whether or not I'm getting a good signal. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this mount. It got really good reviews on Amazon and it feels really strong and sturdy, but I will continue to check on it as the days go by. In order to hook up the Starlink, I did a lot of research about what kind of cabling was needed, and I went back and forth, but I finally settled on using a regular, essentially you could use the regular Starlink cable. I'm gonna be running it all the way along my roof, but it comes with a barrel plug, and then on the other end is a barrel plug. Now you can use a barrel plug adapter, but there's all kinds of issues with those per AI, and I guess even just like logically thinking, just because you don't know what kind of components are in that adapter. A barrel adapter essentially allows you to plug your barrel connector in to the adapter, and then the other end of the adapter you can hardwire. I instead am just going to chop off this barrel adapter, and I'm like 90% sure, 99% sure that there's just 2 wires in here, essentially like a hot and a neutral. And then I will go ahead and just hardwire that to my 24-volt distribution panel. If you look underneath the Starlink, this is the Starlink Mini. There are 2 ports. One is for power and one is for an Ethernet cable. I'm going to be using both of these. This particular cable that I got from Amazon looks almost as good as the actual Starlink cable. It has a really nice waterproof seal. You can see this Ethernet cable also has a waterproof seal. They fit really nice and snug. Also, don't listen to me. I may be doing this wrong, but I hope I'm doing it right. 2 cables. Perfect! But really, don't listen to me. I'm not an electrician. I don't know anything other than what I think I know, but I might be wrong about wiring, so do your own research, please. Up to the roof. Now, as you can see, I have 2 cables. One is a power cord, one is an Ethernet, and I plan to run these from the Starlink on the roof down the length of the roof and in through the roof into my electrical box. The reason why I am using an Ethernet is because I prefer to turn off the Wi-Fi. In the Starlink Mini, this newer Mini, there is a built-in router, and you do have the option to turn that off. So I'm going to be directly connecting from the Starlink's Ethernet port, using an Ethernet adapter to Lightning cable, because the MacBook Pros no longer have actual Ethernet ports in them, then that's going to allow me to directly connect internet from the Starlink to my laptop. One of the reasons I want to do this is because I like to limit my exposure to things like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi as much as possible. And especially when I'm in the van, it's just one less thing that I have to have exposure to. I've also heard that it gives you a more reliable, stable connection versus Wi-Fi. So this particular cable gland, cable seal, has this big like rubber puck that the cables feed through. And a lot of the videos that I watched suggested using normal drill bits to drill through this rubber, which I literally had the hardest time yesterday drilling. I had to use a drill bit that was about 3 or even 4 sizes bigger than the wire. And even then, it just chops up the rubber. It's really messy inside. So I did a little bit more research, and I initially tried to use what they call these drilling tubes to drill through this rubber, and there was just no way. If you're using these dry and you're using this rubber at room temperature, it's not gonna work. Maybe if you have one of those drill presses, but with a drill like this, if you're just doing warm and warm, it's not gonna work. So I found only one video, and I will link it because he totally deserves all the credit for this, and it works perfectly. So I froze this block of rubber for about 3 hours. That kind of firms it up. And then you take your drill tube, and I have a little cup with some dish soap and some warm water, and you just dip your drill tube in there. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of it on the top of the rubber. And then you want to set it into this frame, because then it keeps the rubber kind of contained so it doesn't, like, I don't know, splay out when you're drilling it. It makes it easier to drill. And then I'm just inserting it into the drill, I don't know, a little less than halfway, so there's enough depth to actually get through the rubber on like the highest torque and the highest speed. And we're just gonna go for it. We got it. And there's the piece. Looks a lot better than the other ones I tried to do with the drill. You can see how jagged these drill ones are, and then this is the drill tubes. It's like pretty much smooth. Here's an up close of the mount. You have the rubber base, you have the plastic frame, the bung, and then the cover. Here I am routing some of the cables through the holes that I drilled. These holes were a tiny bit bigger than the cabling, and even so, it was still really hard to route the wires through. Spoiler alert, after this is installed, it rains and this leaked. So at this point, I'm still not sure how I would make the holes small enough so the rain couldn't get through, but still be able to push these rubber cables through this rubber bung. Now for cables like my Ethernet, where the head is on there and I didn't want to have to wire that, I don't know if there's like 16 little pins in there. I wanted to be able to leave the head on it, but still push the cable through the hole. A lot of people, even professional van installers, were saying that you could just make a slice through the side of it like I'm doing here, and that it will self-seal. I don't think that this was contributing to the leaking, because that is really sealed under that top black frame. I do think it was that the holes were too big. The first step was to decide where I wanted this cable gland seal and to use a Sharpie to trace the inner oval so I knew how big of a hole to cut out. Unfortunately, I didn't get footage of this. Started the oval by making 2 holes using a 1/2-inch hole saw. You can see the shavings went everywhere. In the past, I've used the box technique. Basically, you cut out a little hole from a box and then tape the box to your van so the shavings are contained inside that box. This was just a step that I missed this time, but I wish I had done it. I really don't have the proper sanding equipment for this, but this little block sander kind of fit in there well enough. I made sure to paint and then clear coat my raw edges to prevent rusting. Let that dry, peeled off the painter's tape, and I put the rubber base down, then the frame, and my wires. You can see that's the one where the Ethernet goes through, where it was cut. And all of this just gets pushed down snugly into that frame and it seals it up. Then there are a few screws that go on that white base down through the van, and the black frame goes on top, sealing everything up, and that uses 4 screws. As I said earlier, this did leak, but no problem. Skillaflex to the rescue. I slathered that baby up, and I have been through torrential downpours on the highway at 65 miles an hour and have had 0 leaking. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am so glad you're here. This solo van build is my absolute dream, and I hope you'll subscribe so you can see the whole build.